I'm so out on Boston. I really am. I kind of just want all the chaos now. Now that there's no Bucks, now that, the Kings are gone, and you've got 8 seeds and 7 seeds going up against one another. You got obviously Lakers 7 seed, Warriors 6 seed. You got the Heat 8 seed. Now I'm just like, I'm down for everyone to go down.
Just a complete, utter chaos, like March Madness in the NBA playoffs?
Yeah.
I'd be cool with that.
I'm in on Denver. I like
Okay.
Denver just because there's nothing to hate about them.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what
true.
I mean? They're the very likable team.
Yeah.
That's the only likable team left. It's
Well, I like my Knicks. You hate the Knicks?
Oh no, that's fine.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
just kind of consider them dead already.
Come on, give them. Damn it, Trista.
Heat,
Get 'em nice
Heat not
things.
very likable. Celtics not likable. Sixers not likable. Warriors not likable. Lakers not likable. Suns, but they're dead too.
They're dead.
Knicks and the Suns are kind of in the same boat to me.
I know.
Like, it's cute. It's just a matter of time.
I know.
Do not put a map on your wall. If you're an adult and not in college, do not put a map on your wall for decoration. I almost cussed. That stuff drives me crazy. There is a house on Rat Alley, which I walk my dog on every night, and they have a map. They have a photo of the Jefferson Memorial. A Lincoln Memorial
They love
photo.
love
They
the
have
DC
a
scene.
montage of DC photos, and I'm like, you literally live a mile away. Is this an Airbnb? Are you 19? What is happening right now?
What would you prefer somebody to put on their walls?
Art? Like real art.
Sometimes they're spending thousands of dollars. A map may only cost you like $100.
Did I say how much you needed to cost?
I
just
art
said
usually
art.
ain't cheap.
Well, expensive art isn't cheap,
This is true.
but you could get screen print like on canvas of Basquiat or whatever you're
wanted
into.
to be classy and start collecting art.
Yeah, we got to get art money first.
Yeah.
But yeah, you
And then hide it away to avoid taxes. I would never do such a thing.
Meet local artists, like go out to things. There's all kinds of street art out there. Just don't put a basic YT map on your thing. Like, what is this, Pangea? This is stupid.
And that is a public service announcement from Trista on maps and decorating.
Don't put a globe in your house either. You just look like such a geek.
Well, it certainly helps being the NL Central. That's the weakest division in baseball, or maybe the AL Central, but the two Centrals are the weakest. So, they're getting some great starting pitching. They still don't have a lot of depth. So if you did a survey of GMs, and I've talked to a few, they'd say, I'll be surprised if they still finish 500. If they finish 500, great season. So I think they're still a year away. Where people believe in the Orioles, like, okay, this team's for real, and they got a chance to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, a team like the Yankees could be left out. But yeah, the Orioles have gone through such a painful rebuild, but now the time is finally here. No, you're absolutely right. You can't rebuild in New York. You can't rebuild in Los Angeles. If you're the Dodgers, St. Louis Cardinals never rebuild. So you got to keep going after it. They have a lot of star-studded players, but they're thin. When those guys go down and they have a thin rotation, outside of Garrett Cole and Esther Cortez, it's a huge drop-off, and it shows up. Now they're without Judge and Stanton, so they got to kind of ride the course here and hope they get into the playoffs. They still have a shot, obviously, at the division title, but the Rays aren't going away.
When I look at this series, though, Trista, I am immensely concerned about the Knicks because the Heat have nothing to lose. They can't miss from the outside. They just continue to knock down shots. We thought losing Tyler Hero was going to be a mass. I don't know what they'd be if they had Tyler Hero right now. I'd probably bet them to win the title. They lose that game, but they don't have Jimmy Butler. And you got a really good effort from Julius Randle and from Jalen Brunson. So the Knicks kind of got their best effort from their guys and barely squeaked by and won this game. The Heat made a bigger statement than the Knicks in that loss because Miami said, we can hang with you and just wait till our leader comes back. It's going to be real soon.
So I haven't really heard anything about his playoff performance, but from the jump and from the start of the regular season, people were pretty impressed. And also, I'll say this. In asking people about the Milwaukee situation with Mike Budenholzer and the fact that Boston they stepped up and put Joe Mazzulla in that position like within a moment of Ime Udoka's suspension. And there was no doubt from the lead Celtics decision makers that he was their guy. That's a rare thing. There aren't many teams that have an assistant from the back of the bench that they are willing to hand pluck and confidently put in the fire and lead this roster that they've assembled that has championship aspirations. So I say that all that to say, I don't really care what happens in this postseason. There'd have to be something pretty dramatic that would shift Brad Stevens and his front office, their high opinion of what Joe Mazzulla is capable of, because they felt so highly about him before he even took over that first chair, to the point where no one else even really saw it coming. They still looked in the potential eyes of naysayers and doubters of this 34-year-old, I believe Joe Mazzulla is, unproven coach. They picked him and handpicked him. Something crazy would have to occur for that to kind of shift gears here. I don't think so now. I mean, I definitely, when the playoffs started and Yahoo had us all kind of pick a bracket and move teams along, like I picked Phoenix to beat Denver, just basing it off of the fact that they have Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And when a series goes long and you end up being able to scout your opponent and take away certain things and cross-match and what have you, like that ability to just be a one-on-one scorer in space, I thought would maybe be the deciding factor over a 7-game series, and maybe it still does, right? Maybe the altitude was a real factor, and you switch things up in Phoenix, and all of a sudden the Suns have home court. The same thing we were talking about with the Knicks and Heat, where the setting with the supporting cast, maybe the Josh Okogis and Torrey Craig start hitting those corner threes and things start to turn. But I my editor and I were on the phone today trying to plan out where I might travel to the end of this season, these series and the start of the conference finals, and we've kind of already ruled out Game 5 in Denver being of interest. Like, if there even is a Game 5, will that series still be hanging in the balance? Like, we're not so sure anymore. So it's going to be a really tall task for Phoenix, and I'll leave you with this Easter egg. Like, I do wonder what changes end up coming from the Suns under new owner Matt Ishbia, and they've got a workshop in the front office, and who knows? There's just a lot, I think, that will be foreseen to unfold there in that organization if this is a pretty clean, dismantling at the hands of Denver.
It's hard not to like Spieth. It's hard not to feel like him and Cantley might feel like the most due of these higher-end players that haven't sort of had that breakthrough. And you mentioned Spieth's finishes just out of that playoff with Fitzpatrick. Normally at a place like this, I would totally disregard Spieth because he's a bit wayward with the driver for my liking. But he's just been outstanding, honestly, off the tee for Jordan Spieth. He's gained strokes with the driver, and I think 4 of his last 5 events. That being said, of the guys in that range, I'm not on Spieth this week. I don't like par 71, 7,500 yard layouts for Jordan Spieth. That's not where I want to be.
You can't be that much. You have every other team in the NFC. Most of them don't. The problem with this, and the reason why I would lean against the Eagles, because it's only 3-1 anyway. It's not like it's a massive number. You're also looking at, one, it's really difficult to get back to the Super Bowl. I mean, we know that. As good as the Eagles are, things can go the opposite way very, very quickly. What if Jalen Hurts regresses? I mean, whatever. There's injuries. You can't really factor in injuries, but you can at the same time. But you still do have the 49ers lingering there. I know we don't know what Brock Purdy truly is, and it's probably going to be Brock Purdy, but the 49ers are a really good team, and they're really well coached. And there could be, and there usually is, a team that sneaks up on you every year, especially in a wide-open conference like that right now. Or maybe it's not Detroit, but what if it is the Rams? What if the Rams do get back and they play like a team that won the Super Bowl a couple of years ago? It's just, for the price at 3-1 for the Eagles, I'd rather take the field because I feel like there's at least a better shot. I understand there's obviously, I'd rather the Eagles be like 5 or 6 or 7-1 for me to go in and take that.
I think I would take the Eagles. I think they're the best team in the NFC, top to bottom, defense, offense. They get another weapon for for Jalen Hurts, which is exactly what he needs, which is scary hours. You add to that defensive line. Like, I would take the Eagles. I would take the Eagles to win the Super Bowl over anyone except for the Chiefs.
Scott, when did you first know you were old?
This morning when I tried to get out of bed. Missy Elliott, by the way, I believe was just named to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Yes, she was.
She's part of the 2023 class.
Man.
I saw her name this morning.
How long
Congrats
does it
to her.
take for people? I feel like some people, it's like long after they make.
It's not 5 years after you
There's
stop
not a
playing.
5-year
It's not,
thing.
no.
Like 5 years after your last album, is you get
Yeah.
inducted into it.
No, because this year's class is actually the late George Michael, half of Wham and of his own amazing solo career. That makes me old. Rage Against the Machine. Kate Bush, who had a resurgence thanks to Stranger Things and was around when I was a teenager in the 80s, because I love Kate Bush. She's a voice from heaven. Mentioned Rage, Sheryl Crow, the Spinners. Again, you mentioned music that our parents listened to. When did I first figure out that I was old?
Yeah, like in a workplace setting.
You know how people always say, what was your welcome to the NBA moment? This is your welcome to the not being young anymore in this business moment. Or I don't know. I could come up with a better way to word it.
Yeah, like you were the youngest when you get into a field that you're like just a little bit too advanced for. Like you're in there maybe earlier than you should be. When I got into finance, I was 22 and everybody around me was in their 40s.
Oh, yeah.
And that now, like, I'm the one that's old. So when was that for you?
I think the answer is, Trista, I've always been old.
When you were 22, you weren't old.
No, but I was still an older soul, if you will. So I never spoke like somebody who was cool or trying to be cool. I was always Mellow Scott, you know? And that's not a nickname that I gave myself.
You never said things were the bomb?
No, I didn't walk into the room
You didn't
and
give,
say,
like, groovy or anything?
No, that was so 1971.
Yeah, that's when you were in your prime.
No, that was when I was 3.
Yes.
You were in your prime at 3. Everything was perfect
Fair.
then, right?
And after that, it just went to pot.
It
was
went
done.
downhill after 3 years
it was
old.
The expectations, everything was just screwed right after that.
You said no. That's when I was 3.
No, I can't.
No, like that you were just coming out of high school. Then you were anti-war movement.
Exactly right. I had my anyway. It'd probably be really hard to give you a year, but there were certainly times when I went into the studio and people were talking about things that I either wasn't playing this video game system and I was still stuck on. I'll go old school. You mentioned pull out your Sega Genesis or your Atari 5200 or, God forbid, your Atari 2600. Or I'll go even older, kids. Look up the Magnavox Odyssey or the Fairchild Channel F.
The Fairchild.
Oh, you haven't lived till you messed with that joystick, which stood straight up and down and had sort of a triangle top. And I think it.
Careful,
not I
doing
think.
your hands there.
Hello. Pause.
Pause.
It had.
See, you got that one though.
There
Pause.
you go. Look at that. You're getting cool now.
No, that doesn't
You got
make me
the
cool.
pause.
That makes me a parrot. That doesn't make me cool. It makes me smart enough to echo the smart people.